So when you were 18 or 25 years old, of course you heard your father preach on Sundays. I mean, that I want to just talk about that for a minute. As a child, you went as a family every Sunday. Well,
let me say this.
Yeah.
My father was at Ebenezer, but my family was at Shiloh.
Okay. Let me just fix this for a second. There you go.
My mother and her mother and her mother all went to Shiloh.
Which is where you still go.
So we all went to Shiloh. At my father's church, we would go there sometimes.
Okay.
They had Sunday school in the afternoon. So we would go there to Sunday school in the afternoon. But we went to Sunday school and church at Shiloh.
So, and you're still a very important part of Shiloh, and your amazing trajectory, not only working and raising your two, so you married Mr. Patterson, and he was in education. He was he came to Alexandria.
He came to Alexandria because it had a higher salary. He came for $100 a month.
Okay.
That was a higher salary than what he was getting, but it was still a lower salary than the white teachers were getting.
And he ended up being the principal.
And, yeah, he came. He was the music teacher, so he taught. He was the band instructor, and eventually he became an assistant principal at Parker Gray, and then the assistant principal at Parker Gray went to Charles Houston as the principal, and my husband became the assistant principal at Parker Gray. And then when Parker Gray changed from high school to middle school, he was principal of the middle school. And he was principal of the middle school for, I don't remember how many years. And then he went into central administration. He was director of student activities and staff relations until he retired.
Okay. And you all had Marilyn and Valerie, your two daughters, who one lives here, of course, and one lives here nearby.
Yeah.
In the region. And you have 3 grandchildren.
3 grandsons and 1 great-grandson. I call them my 4 sons.
I love it. I love it. Well, congratulations.
My 4 sons, yeah.
Wow. And your family history is quite dramatic in that you're really the descendant of someone who did come over in the late 1700s.
Yeah, I did.
On a slave ship, survived that horror, and then married.
We can trace our lineage back to this first man that came from Africa, but I don't know exactly where. I've done my DNA, and it has shown a region where he came from in Africa. One of the things that has always fascinated me was his name. Where'd you get your name? Because that's not the name of the people that bought him when he first came to this country. I don't know where the name came from, but I like it better than the name of the people that bought him.
Okay. But, people think about, well, that's a long time ago. But in fact, it's not, the story of your family, but then it's also the legacy of that story. And even to the issue of a poll tax or Jim Crow era, or that segregation of the schools, the lack of new school books and new supplies, paying the teachers the same as you do at the white school. But now everything is desegregated. But from the time that you were a child, and people started flying planes, and of course we have an iPhone here, and I mean, it's just amazing all the things that you've seen,
Mm-hmm.
and including
I
President.
remember, yeah, we paid poll taxes. And I remember one time going to the fire station on North Patrick Street with my grandmother to vote. And one of the things that I remember, and I don't know why this caught my attention, but there was a paper ballot, and she handed the ballot to the man, and instead of him just putting it in the poll, he did like this to look at what she had done. And I thought that was strange, but I didn't know why. But I remember that particular time, and that was the only time I went with her to vote. But he took the paper and just slid it down so he could see what was written on it. It's supposed to be a secret ballot.
Right. So did it eventually end up in the crevice where the box, where all the other votes were?
Yeah, he put it in there.
I wonder what he would have done if he didn't agree with what the...
I don't know.
We don't know if he agreed or not. So, but the poll tax and the fact that people were tested or they had to pay in order to vote, right?
Mhm. I don't remember the testing here. I do remember the poll tax.
A time of fear, of course, in the 50s with the tragedy of Emmett Till's murder, what was going on throughout the country in terms of lynchings. The fact that even we had two lynchings here in our city.
I don't remember the fear here in Alexandria.
Well, I meant in the country.
But I remember the country.
The country, that's what I meant.
But more so than fear, I remember anger.
Okay.
Anger more so than fear. And that's different.
So talk about that. How did you talk about that with your husband a lot?
We talked about it with everybody.
Yeah.
We were angry at what was going on. Fearful? No, not fearful. Fearful but keeps you from doing anything.
Just
from thinking and whatnot. But anger makes you want to do something.
Did the rise of Dr. King's voice and the March on Washington in '63 give you and others hope for a new day?
Absolutely.
I would think so, yeah. And the fact that he got the Nobel.
Right.
And then the unthinkable tragedy of his loss. What do you remember about 1968?
I remember thinking that because he died, somebody was going to burn. Somebody was going to be electrocuted or something because of his death. But that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Now they did arrest...
Which was the same thing I thought when Kennedy died. I remember I said, first thing I thought, somebody's going to burn because
that was
they
back
had killed somebody.
Right, and just to explain that...
And the same way with King, I felt they were going to do something for that, but they didn't.
Right. So, and then years later, Barack Obama becomes president, and were you able to attend the inauguration?
No.
It was very cold out.
I watched.
You watched.
I watched.
But you probably had a better seat than most of us.
Actually,
it was pretty cold out there.
I had a watch party.
Oh, that's great.
I had a watch party.
You had a lot of people over?
Mm-hmm. We bought a new big screen TV, and we had a watch party.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was the first time. And the second time, I went someplace else to watch.
Right.
I went to the National Council of Negro Women
is that the place on Pennsylvania Avenue that
Yeah.
Dorothy Height ran forever?
And she was there.
Oh, really?
That was exciting to see her.
She was
And
such
to
a huge
watch the
icon.
numbers come in.
So I've been going through some papers at home. I attended her funeral, and so I have her, the program from her funeral. I'm not sure, it's not really a program, but
Yeah, I know what you
and
mean.
it was amazing to look back through to see who had spoken that day. It was quite a tribute to her life and her legacy. I'll be glad to share that with you if you want. So looking ahead, looking forward, if you could wave a magic wand for our city, and how do you,
If I could
what do you
wave a
wish for?
magic wand for our city, the first thing I would like to see is more affordable housing. And by affordable housing, I mean housing that people with less than a six-figure salary can comfortably live in. This is a nice town, but it's a town that you know what, I couldn't buy my own house back because it's that expensive.
Right.
But I think a town ought to have a wide variety of people in it. And this is a small town with a lot of people packed in it. It still has a small town mentality, if you ask me.
Right. Sort of a small town feel, but it's very densely populated, right outside the nation's capital.
Yeah.
Right. So affordable housing.
But I would like to see affordable housing. And I would like to see people are generally friendly. If you walk down the street and look somebody directly, they'll speak. Of course, there are people that when they see you coming up might have something else to do with their eyes, but most of the time, if you're walking down the street and you look directly at somebody, they will speak to you, and I think that's good. It's a nice town. I've been here all of my life, and I'm, fourth generation. There are many other places I could have gone, but this is home, and all of my family is still here, so
Right.
we think it's worth staying in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.